Good evening, everyone. Chrisis here from Gamestah, and I've just got an update on Season 4 changes for Heroes of the Storm. So it's the fourth and final season. It's going to be a cracker. As with each of the seasons that have taken place this year, each season has evolved to accommodate feedback from players as well as to accommodate the scene in general. So Season 4 is no different. So we've got a couple of changes, and I'm just going to take you through them. Just imagine that I'm Jeff Kaplan with the beard giving you an update, competitive update, or something like that. No, I'm not Jeff Kaplan. Anyway, so without further ado, let's have a very quick look. And I apologize for my green screen doing funny things, but anyway. So let's have a look at what the Season 4 changes are. So before we get into the new stuff about the format, there are some things that are not changing. The general weekly format is not going to change. We're going to still have a Swiss format qualifier every week, and we're still going to have a playoff every week, and there's still going to be an overall leaderboard that determines the top two to top 4 teams in the season. But there are some pretty big changes that are going to be happening. Significant changes, but not changes that nobody's going to be able to adapt to. So let's have a look at what does change. So the first thing that we'll look at is Swiss format. So Swiss format, as you know, gets played every week, and it is the weekly qualifying format. What we did in Season 3 was we had 4 teams, the top 4 teams from Swiss format go through to the playoff of that round, and that's not changing. That's still going to be the same. What is going to change is that it's going to be moved to a Wednesday night. So it was on Tuesday nights, it's going to be moved to a Wednesday night, and that's really to make room for the playoffs to take place on Tuesday nights. Now, we had some very specific feedback around Thursday nights as a no-go for a lot of people, because a lot of people actually have jobs that require them to work on late-night shopping nights on Thursday nights. So we've had to clear Thursday nights away completely for the sake of the scene, and so that means playoffs move to Tuesday nights, and we're going to have Swiss format on the Wednesday night. So that introduces some complications, but we'll cover that in a moment. But for now, just take it as the playoffs. Make that disappear. Here we go. It looks like I'm properly in there. There's my green screen coming in and out. So Wednesday nights we're going to have Swiss night, and it's also going to move a half hour early. So instead of starting at 8 p.m. AEST, we're going to start at 7:30 p.m. AEST, and that is to accommodate the New Zealand players who are finding the midnight finishes very late. So 10 p.m. is midnight in New Zealand, and it's very late. What's changing about playoffs? Well, obviously the first thing is it's moving to a Tuesday night away from Thursday nights, and it's also going to be moving to a half hour early. Now, there is a possibility that moving it a half hour early negatively affects WA players. We'd like to hear from WA players. If there are a lot of WA players, then, well, we might have to move it back. But for now, 7:30 p.m. is when it's going to be starting. But this is the really big change about playoffs. It's going to be a modified double elimination format. So what we did in Season 3 was we had single elimination best of 3 matches. Now we're going to be having what I call a modified double elimination match. And I'll go into detail right now about what that exactly means. So to set the scene for you, firstly, remember that playoffs are made up of 8 teams. 4 teams from the previous week's playoffs, and another 4 teams from the Swiss qualifiers. And so what that now means. Okay, so first things first. What happens with the 4 teams from playoffs? So they get put into an upper bracket, and being in the upper bracket, they have 2 lives. The 4 teams that come from the Swiss bracket, they are placed into the lower bracket, and they only have 1 life. Okay, so let's just break down exactly what this means. So in the upper bracket, Oh, sorry. Before we break down, let's just go through a couple more details about the upper bracket. So firstly, 2 rounds are played in the upper bracket, only 2 rounds. And I've got a diagram that shows exactly how this is going to work. All the matches are BO3. And if you lose a match in the upper bracket, you get pushed down into the lower bracket. Sounds simple, right? What happens in the lower bracket? So once again, only 2 rounds are played. And you might start to be thinking now, oh, how's that actually going to work? They're also best of 3 matches. And a loss in the lower bracket knocks the team out of playoffs and puts them into the Swiss bracket. So they've got to re-qualify for playoffs. Okay? So let's take us through, let me take you through a full bracket. So I've got this on the screen. I know that you can't actually see my mouse, so I'm going to try and not point at things. But if you look in the top left-hand corner, where the matches played has just appeared. So we've got 2 matches in the upper bracket, seed 1 versus seed 4, and seed 2 versus seed 3. So that is the format that the matches are going to take for the first round of the upper bracket. And once those matches get played, then you're going to have a winner from each match go through into the next round of the upper bracket, and they're going to play against each other in the second round. The losers, remember I said the losers drop down into the lower bracket. Okay, so if you look at the how the bracket has played out for this first round in the upper bracket, seed 1 versus seed 4. That's something new from season 2. Remember, in season 2 for the single elimination format, what we had was seed 1 going up against seed 8. So the person who was at the bottom of the qualifiers from the Swiss bracket went up against the person, the team that was at the bottom, went up against the team that was at the top of the previous week's playoff round. Very uneven match, and we had a lot of feedback from teams that said, we don't like that because that's just a stomping. So we'd like that to change. So straight away you can see that we've responded. Seed 1 is going to go up against seed 4. That's going to be a closer match than seed 1 versus seed 8. Still expect seed 1 to win that though. They are the upper seed, and we expect them to go through into the next round. And then we have seed 2 versus seed 3 again. That's going to be a really close match, we expect. We're assuming in our example here that seed 2 is going to win that match and is going to push through into the next round. Okay, so that's the upper bracket, how the upper bracket is going to play out on the night. What happens in the lower bracket? So firstly, the round 1 matches play once again. Seed 5 gets matched up against seed 8. And seed 6 gets matched up against seed 7. Now, if you've been paying attention, you'll remember that seed 5 to 8 all come from the Swiss bracket. So these teams are all they've played against each other in the Swiss bracket of the round. So these are probably going to be really close matches again. Seed 5 versus 8, we're stacking it obviously in favor of seed 5 because that's the way that seeding works. And seed 6 versus seed 7. Once again, that's going to be probably the closest match in the lower bracket initially in the first round. So again, we assume that the higher seed wins and the lower seed loses in our example. And what does that mean? Well, the teams that lose in that first round of the lower bracket, they're knocked out of the playoffs, and they've got to go to the next Swiss round. Okay? But the winners go through into the second round of the lower bracket, and they face up against the 2 losers that have come through from the upper bracket. So those 2 matches then get played. Seed 3 versus seed 5, seed 4 versus seed 6, they get played out, and that's it for the evening. Only 2 rounds get played. The last match doesn't actually get played in the lower bracket. So it's a little bit different, as you can see, from season 3, where in the lower bracket now, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 matches getting played in total instead of just 4 matches. 6 matches. 6 matches. There you go. Instead of 6 matches. And what we, one of the big changes of course, is that in the upper bracket, we're having a situation where the two top seeded teams do actually end up playing against each other. So that's quite an important change. Now, obviously, down in the lower bracket, that final match doesn't get played. We don't have enough time to play it. Two BO3 matches starting at 7:30 AEST. That's still going to take a good amount of time to complete, especially if those matches are close. We expect them to go all 3 games. So we don't want to have teams end up playing, way too late. Coming back to the second round of each of the upper and lower brackets, what happens in terms of the next week's playoffs? Because remember, we've got to take 4 teams from this this playoff round, and we've got to push them through into the next playoff. Well, let's go here. So, firstly, both of the teams that make it through into the second round of the upper bracket go through to the playoffs. So their match that they play is actually for bonus points and for seeding in the next week. And to make sure that we don't have a situation like last season where the number 1 and the number 2 seed never played against each other. Okay, it's important that they actually get matchups against each other. What happens in the lower bracket? Well, only the winners of the second round match go through into the next playoff round, but the losers get knocked out and they get back into Swiss. So we've got the 2 losers that come out of the first round of the losers bracket, and then the 2 losers that come out of the second round of the losers bracket. They all get pushed back into the Swiss bracket, and they have to requalify. But the winners of that the second round losers bracket matches, they go through into the next playoffs. And we've got some clever seeding. I won't go into exactly how the seeding works, but they will be seeded 3rd and 4th. And it's not necessarily that the current seed 3 or the winner of the seed 3 versus seed 5 is automatically going to be seeded as seed 3 in the next week. We're actually playing, we're going to be using the matches won, the games won in their matches as the means to tally whoever is higher. But that sort of detail will come out when we publish the rules. Okay, so that's essentially how the bracket is going to play out. The other big change is how the schedule itself works out. So let's have a look at the season schedule. Season starts on the 9th of August, and you'll note that it starts with a Swiss format match. It's open as always. Swiss format bracket. It's open as always, and at the end of it, 4 teams qualify for the weekly playoff. Now, this is a key change. That Wednesday, 4 teams qualify for the next playoff, and that happens in the next week on the Tuesday. So, in that first week, there's only 1 match night. So then what we have on the 15th of August is we have the playoff. We have 4 players from the Swiss bracket from the 9th of August. And then, and this is the other big change, is the 4 teams that made the Season 3 ANZ Finals. So that's Nomia, Darksided, NMD, and Trump Sports. They automatically go through to that first round of playoffs. They don't play in the first round Swiss. Okay? So round 1 playoff happens on the 15th of August. 4 teams from that get knocked out back into Swiss. 4 teams go through to the next playoffs. And then round 2 starts the very next night with a Swiss format bracket. And once again, 4 teams from that will qualify to the next playoff. So it's a little bit of a change, a switcheroo that happens. So on the Tuesday night, we have a playoff round, and then if you lose in the losers bracket of that playoff round, you've got to play in the Swiss bracket the next night straight away in that week. Okay, and that's essentially how the season goes. You've got the full season over there. The last playoff night is on the 5th of September, and then at the end of that, we've got our top 4. Now, Blizzard will announce details of what exactly happens with the top 4 after that, but we do know that there is an element of LAN finals that is going to be taking place. Whether it's going to be LAN finals for 2 teams, for the top 2 teams, or LAN finals for the top 4 teams is unclear at this stage, but that will be announced. When are the finals? The finals are going to be on the 30th of September. And now you know. So that's how things are going to work out. Let's get a background there. That's going to be how Season 4 works out. Now, if you've got any questions, what you should be doing is contacting us on Discord, or you can contact us on Facebook if you really want to. Of course, we're active on Twitter. You should follow us on Twitter at Gamestah, and we have our YouTube channel, but don't ask us questions there because, yeah, why would you? But mainly, come to Discord. Just go to gamestah.com and look for our Discord details there if you don't already have them. Otherwise, you can follow us on Twitter and send us a DM. Our DMs are open. All right. Thanks very much for listening. This has been Gamestah Chrisis.